Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast after another away game, another league game, and another game that Sunderland put in a very good performance. Did finish 2-2 away to Watford, and like usual, we will get into everything that happened during the game, team selections and player ratings and whatnot else. But first, John, 4 points from the last two away games, two games that are probably two of the toughest that we've had so far this season. Obviously, Reading on the day weren't great, but positioning in the table, they were third, I think maybe fourth. And obviously, Watford just come down from the Premier League, one of the favourites to go straight back up this season. So to take 4 points from them two games shouldn't be overlooked at all.
No, it's not. I think it's a fantastic week. To be fair, obviously going to Reading, and no one really scares me in this league. But you've still got you've got to go there. And obviously we saw the scenes and the football we played on Wednesday, and it was fantastic. Obviously different kettle of fish. Yesterday, a very, very tough place to go considering we're sort of two divisions apart last season, albeit squad changes. But 4 points on the road in this league, I think you can accept it, and we're relatively happy. And we did say on the podcast on Thursday, I certainly myself would take that. Can't help slightly but thinking, even though Watford were good, there probably was a few dodgy decisions in there. Probably should have had a penalty. Diaka should have scored, and I'd say we're almost coming away slightly thinking, yeah, we could have won, but ultimately that's a good position to be in. 4 points away from home going into the international break. I think it's important not to lose going into it, and it's a really positive time at the moment.
Yeah, and like John says there, Michael, looking at the Watford game, it's a game that you would have took a draw out of, and obviously we'll get into everything that happened and kind of the reasons why some will probably feel a bit disheartened that we've only got a point out of it. But looking at the season so far as a whole, obviously we are fifth in the league. We've had injuries, playing the last two games without a striker, the last three games without Ross Stewart, who's probably our best player, most key player. A few other injuries in defence like of Sirkin and Ballard. So to be in this position that we are in now, again, like I say, that shouldn't be overlooked either. But it does show that we've now played Sheffield United away from home. And they are absolutely storming the league at the minute. I think they are one of, I can't remember the exact stat, but I think 5 of the last 21 teams to have picked up as many points as they have at this point of the season have failed to get promoted. So chances are they're going to go up. Again, Watford are a team that are favourites to go up, whether that's through the playoffs or automatics. And in any of the games that we've played, we haven't looked like we haven't struggled against any of the teams we've played. Unlucky not to get something out of Sheffield United. Obviously got that red card, and even when we went down to 10 men, probably could have got something, probably deserved something out of the game. Obviously, like I say, we got the point at Watford, probably could have had 3, and like I say, we'll get on to why. But has the results so far this season, the performances especially, changed what the expectations should be?
Well, I can only answer that question for myself. For me personally, no. I still maintain that for me, it's get to 50 points as quickly as possible. My expectation might change if we're on 50 points in, say, February, and we're pushing towards the top 6, and we're much closer to the top 6 than we are the bottom 3. Then my expectation might start to shift to, right, let's give it a go, and if we don't finish in there, so be it. It's not the end of the world. But you're right. If you look at all the games, I mean, like John said earlier, I mean, no one particularly, nobody scared me who have played so far, and I think it just shows that we don't look out of place, do we? I think we've had, you said yourself, we've had Sheffield United, who's top of the league at the minute. We've had Norwich, second in the league. I know they've had a pretty rubbish start, but Middlesbrough were tipped to be up there, and I still believe Borough at the end of the season will be up there. So we've had them, and we've obviously had Watford, and 3 of those games were away from home. Sheffield United down to 10 men. Norwich had our chances. Borough, albeit our worst performance of the season, I think a lot of fans would agree on that. I think we were still nevertheless in the game, could have got something out of that. We've had a lot of positive. You said yourself, we've had a lot of injuries. Like, we've had 2 strikers injured recently, for goodness sake. And we've still managed to secure 4 points away from home this week and score 5 goals without our strikers. Obviously, the only thing I would say to balance it a little bit is that we are 5 points off 20 seconds. Because obviously the league's still not open at the minute. But, as I said before loads of times, when you look at all the rubbish and all the shite, to be honest, sorry for my language, that we've put up with over the last 6 seasons, just enjoy this. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just enjoy this while it lasts. Because any set of fans deserve it, we do. And as you said, we so far we've competed in every game. We haven't looked out of place in the Championship, and that's all we can ask for at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah. We'll get on with the game because, quite frankly, that is what the whole point of this podcast is. I think this started the game fairly well, and obviously the first goal did come for Watford, and again, it was one of them goals that it was kind of a moment of quality, I think, from Watford. John, the pass, I think it was Asprilla. There's not much you can really do about that. You look at the goal that Keenan Davis scored, I think Danny Bart was running back into his own box with him and kind of left him a little bit. Could argue that he might, stay with his man and he might get a clearance there, but I don't think that's necessarily a mistake. I think that is just one thing that will happen in football. But like we've said a few times now that we're back in the Championship, it is that one bit of quality that can completely change a game.
Yeah, of course it is. The ball, sort of over the back of Gooch was, to be fair, fantastic ball. We've seen our fair share of fantastic football, during the week. So, it's a fantastic ball. Patterson, maybe could do slightly better. That's probably being, overcritical. The thing that annoys me is their strikers in the middle with a tap in. That's probably the only frustrating thing. But I think ultimately it's the cross, it's the ball, in behind Gooch that probably does kill us. It is a fantastic ball and it leaves us all maybe for dead. So it's one of those ones. If you score it, it's probably a fantastic goal. If you concede it, you're probably thinking, can we do better? But like you say, in the Championship, it's one of those things you have to accept.
Yeah. Didn't take too long though for Sunderland to get back into the game, and not just because of the goal, but the chances we're creating, the possession that we had, especially in the final third, and obviously you saw it against Reading midweek where we played without a striker, and you've got midfielders linking up, Michael, where the one-touch passing in and out of in the final third really, and the first goal for Sunderland was a bit scrappy, and obviously we'll get onto a little bit more of it, but it was a very good time to get the goal just before half time. You go into the break at 1-1 and you've got the whole second half to play for on level playing fields.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the word scrappy. That's probably an understatement, to say the least. But yes, it was a very good time. And at the game, obviously I was at Watford, and I could sense that when we scored, I think the atmosphere from Watford, this isn't me trying to have a dig at them, but it's going to sound that way. It sounded very flat. It sounded very deflated. And to be fair, I kind of get it because, they should be expecting a minimum of top six finish, even though they're 1 point off the playoffs at the moment. But you could just sense that. I was very interested to see psychologically that was a huge goal because we've got that level for half time. Watford think, right, okay, we're 1-0 up at home against promoted side, and then straight away it's 1-1 again, and a centre-back scores, or centre-back, full-back, whatever you want to class Elise as. So that was a huge moment, very, very huge moment. I'll say, I know you want to have John touch on the goal maybe, but for me, like I said to you before we came on air, I didn't realise it was a goal. I thought a shot had been blocked out for a corner and questioned why there was 6 Sunderland players going for a corner. And then I think you said yourself, Josh, before we started recording, that it took about a good 30 seconds for us to realise that we actually equalised. But yeah, you're right. It was a huge time in the game to get level.
Yeah. And I think on stream you found out it was a goal a bit quicker when you've got the commentators, you've got the close-up view of the referee point
when
was
you're
watched.
there,
But from the fans' point of view,
when you're there and it happens right opposite end of the stadium, it's harder to notice. But I do get your point.
Yeah. But again, on that goal, John, we've scored better this season, and no doubt we'll score more this season. But just the determination of the likes of Alessi, who he is a centre half, but the way we play football nowadays, you've got the 3 centre halves, the 2 wide ones who will get forward, and I think it was actually from a corner. So of course, your natural centre halves are going to be up there anyway. But for him to get on the ball and have the confidence to just have a shot from that angle, because again, we said it against Reading so many times. We might have been in that position and not even had the shot. Just passed it backwards, try to get another ball into the box. Just to have that shot on goal, anything can happen, and ultimately, it's what brought us level in the game.
Yeah, I think it's those are the types of players we're going for. Young, confident on the ball. I think if we all saw the video of him scoring for West Ham, sort of under 23s, where he sort of burst through, and obviously kid to talk now, it's all about ball control, and you wouldn't have seen John Terry scoring a goal like that. Because he wouldn't have had that control. But players are taught for nowadays, to be good on the ball, to be positive and go for it. And because he's got such a good touch and he is young and he still is listed as a centre back, if you put him out on the left and play him in that role, like a circling role, ultimately he's gonna flourish if he does the basics well. And like you say, when we got the ball in the box, you've just got to try and keep it alive. And that doesn't matter if you're Sunderland or you're Man City. The idea is to keep the ball alive in that area, and you will get a chance. I can't remember who the player was who was on the floor battling. I think it might be Jack Clark. But obviously if he just stops, the keeper easy just picks the ball up. But because he sort of has a poke around, the goalkeeper doesn't know what he's doing. And to be fair, Elise, as calm as you like, has gone round his man. And he's made his own luck. And to be fair, Chowdhury on the line is probably a bit unlucky. But ultimately it goes in, and that's through keeping it alive and through, just sheer determination, which is what we're seeing from this group. And we keep saying it, but long may this continue.
Yeah. Well, obviously it was 1-1 at half time, Michael. Second half, again, kind of followed the same theme. Sunderland good in possession, just didn't take some of the chances that come their way. And obviously we'll get on to a few more that did happen later on in the game, but it was Watford that took the lead again. And like a few goals we've conceded this season, you've got to look defensively. Can we do better? And I think, obviously, Luke O'Nien is the one that ends up heading it into his own goal. But I think, Anthony Patterson is probably the one that gets the blame for that goal, I think. And I think he's had a great season. I don't think he's made any other mistakes other than that, but that is one that I would certainly put on him. The ball gets put back into the box after a free kick. It must be 5, maybe 6 yards out. Don't think he was actually challenged at all, really, Patterson. There was no one in front of him. He can come and collect it or come and punch it or deal with it however he wanted to. In that position, as a keeper, you've got to come and get that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, there were periods of the game where Patterson was getting put under quite a bit of pressure, and obviously Watford have got the players to cause us that sort of problems. Obviously, the goal itself was just unlucky, really, in a lot of ways. O'Nien's obviously just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's enthusiastic and tries so hard to head the ball away that it just comes off him, doesn't it? Obviously it comes off him. It's an own goal, but you get my point. He's just there, the wrong place, wrong time, and obviously to sort of lead on to the point later on that you'll touch on with the equaliser, but it was Sunderland could have capitulated at that point because they would have had every reason to feel sorry for themselves. Just scored an own goal without a striker. But to be fair, what I'm very pleased was that the lads responded from that incident very, very amicably.
Yeah. And obviously after that second goal that Watford scored, John, obviously it was the second time that it went a goal down in the game. Like Michael said, it's easy to exactly like Michael said, you kind of feel sorry for yourselves, and the game just kind of draws out a little bit, and it ends in a 2-1 defeat. But we made changes. I think in the end we actually made 5 subs, and 4 of them are very young players. Obviously, Jewson Bennett, who we'll get on to, the likes of Abdullah Bar, who came on for his debut, Ahmad from Manchester United on loan. He's not had too much football since he signed, but the subs that came on, like they did in other games, completely changed the game.
Yeah, they did. And, we've probably been crying out for a long time for, game-changing players to come on. There's always, that worry that you look to the bench, you think, well, when we played Middlesbrough, can we change it up? And it's a bit like, well, not really. But then, yesterday's ultimately, the proof in the pudding. Yes, these players are young. Yes, they are what we'd call untested at this level. But to be fair, come on, gave us a great impetus. And if you watch the last 15, 20 minutes, you would have said that we were the Premier League team and Watford the ones who just got promoted. But again, it's that youthfulness, it's that fearlessness of can we do it? Yes, they've got to be of a certain quality, but Speakman does get a lot of stick, right, wrong or rightly so, on some things, but you can't. The scouting department we got in there at the moment is working absolute wonders. I wouldn't expect Bennett to be anywhere near ready coming from Costa Rica, but to be fair, just looks sharp as anything. And we'll probably do well to start a game. Sort of fairly soon. Again, you talk about Bar. It'd be easy to come on and just, let's just control. Can we try and control the game and just see out a 2-1 loss and, keep it at that? But it wasn't. It was get on the ball. Can we get it wide? Can we move it? Can we play? Same as Ahmad. Roberts, I probably thought he was, a lot better, sort of late second half. And that's what we want. We want players to come on, change the game. And, teams wouldn't have had a plan. And obviously Watford didn't have a plan for what we were able to bring on. And that's obviously going on in the season, people will see how we play, but it's nice finally to be able to mix it up, especially in what we'd call, a time of crisis with Ross Stewart going off injured, being out for so long, and obviously Sims, really struggling. It's a bit, well, no strikers, what we're going to do? And we struggled, to be fair, a little bit, or sort of a lot of the game, but we brought those players on, changed the game, and Watford did not know what to do.
Yeah. And I said to John just before we started recording as well, Michael, that you look at the likes of Jason Bennett, who obviously scored the equaliser, which we'll get onto, Amad Diallo, who you'd kind of expect to have an impact given the price tag that he signed for Man United, the previous clubs he's played for. I think he's played Champions League football, Premier League football, Europa League football, and he's still a young player. Abdullah Bar, obviously signing from the second French division. And we've signed young players in the past especially, and they've kind of struggled to find their feet. They haven't really got going. But the players that we've brought in, again, the likes of Bennett, Bar, obviously we haven't seen Michu yet. I think he'll probably get a bit of game time against Preston after the international break. But these players look so natural when they come on the pitch, and they don't look like they're trying too hard. They're not trying to impress too much, like a lot of young players probably will at this level. For example, Jason Bennett just signed from Costa Rica. He has a massive point to prove ahead of a World Cup. He's still 18 years old. I think he only turned 18 this year. It's so easy for him to try and impress far too much, do far too much on the ball, and ultimately it'll fail. But when he's come on the pitch, he did the same against Reading, albeit it was only for 10 minutes. He just looked so natural, everything he did.
He did, but I think as well with Jason Bennett that he. It's funny. I'm glad to hear more people are calling him Bennett, because I got told in my YouTube video that Bennett, the way I've been saying it's wrong, by the way. So I'll just keep calling Bennett there. But yeah, Bennett, I think when he came on against Reading and Watford, they were two completely different situations, weren't they? Reading was a case of you're 3-0 up, the game's done. The team, Reading looked like they've basically thrown the towel in at that point. Watford, obviously, 2-1, much tighter game, losing away from home. And he showed the composure in both games. Obviously, had the easier part against Reading and looked quite good there. And then in this game, the one word I'd used him, as well as Bar and Diallo and even Matete to a lesser degree, but certainly Bar, Diallo and Bennett, was fearless. That they came on and didn't show any nerves. They didn't show any sign of, being overwhelmed by sort of the Championship, because Watford's going to be one of the tougher teams that you face this season. And I mean, like John said earlier, entering the last 10, 15 minutes, it was all Sunderland, and that's not even an exaggeration. And I said to my friend next to me at the game that, for the equaliser, a goal's coming here. A goal's coming. If we keep building here, these look shaky defensively, we can get at them. So while we are going to have tough days, like Tony Mowbray said himself when he first came in, we are going to have tougher days. But these players are so far proving that I think that the regime, Speakman, Stuart Harvey, deserve more defending and slightly less criticism. There's some things, like I've said before, they deserve criticism on, but for me, this isn't one of them. I think the players that they have got in, if they show what they can do, they've shown that they've got the quality. And just to add, by the way, it's incredible that we've got what I think I looked on online before we started recording. We've got 10 points away from home, by the way. Just putting it out there, because we never do that. Very rarely.
And on the equaliser, John, obviously it was a ball into the box from Patrick Roberts. I think it was Amad that actually kind of started the move, little ball into Roberts. The ball goes over into the box, and it's Bennett at the back post, or however you want to say his name. I'll let you decide. But again, 18-year-old, quite easy to, at that point in the game, especially when you're 2-1 down, last few minutes of the game, you've got that pressure of having a very good chance to equal the game. And the composure he showed, the finish, it was a very good goal.
Yeah, the the actual finish, the composure's fantastic. Obviously, I said to you, before we came on air, he's already on his way to celebrate when he brings the ball down. He's got that confidence to know he's took an excellent first touch. It's all about the first touch. We look at Jack Clark's goal midweek. That sets it, and all he's got to do is calm, put it into the corner. Again, we're talking about keeping it alive. Amad starts to move. I think there was a good passage of play in the build-up to the goal. And then obviously Patrick Roberts comes alive, even though he's got 3 men on him, manages to put it in. And I'll give a massive shout out, to be fair, because he frustrated me to begin with, to Leon Deaku, who was caught on his heels a couple of times from coming on. Didn't look too sharp, but I think him going for the cross takes their centre back out of the game. And obviously Bennett's in a perfect position, perfect control and finish. And to be fair, an excellent celebration. And we've all seen the videos. It was, well deserved, absolute carnage over there. So again, keep the ball alive. And like Michael said, I think we missed an opportunity. I think just before that, but I wasn't like angry about it because I thought I knew we were going to score. I just knew that something was coming, and it's amazing to have that, that feeling. Because like we said, being in League One, there's been times where we've really struggled and we just haven't been able to do that. So again, things are looking really, really good at the moment. With the whole squad, and nice international break now, a few fresh legs, and go again at Preston.
Yeah. And obviously it finished 2-2, Michael, but like we've said right at the start, it could have been completely different, that because there was a few decisions, few moments in the game for Sunderland that we didn't get, especially. You look at that penalty shout in the first, I think it was in the first half on Jack Clarke, which quite frankly, I don't know how the referees missed it. He stood with the ball in front of him and the defender behind him. Defenders literally just collapsed on top of Clarke. Clarke actually grabs the ball with his hand as well. The referee hasn't even seen that, so it's either a penalty or a free kick to Watford for handball. He hasn't given either, but on that penalty shout, that is a penalty, 100%.
Yeah, but we know what referees are like, don't we? We never seem to. We never seem to get them. And I was thinking about this. When's the last time we actually got a penalty?
Have we not had one this season? Ross Stewart not scored one?
Hang on, let me think. I might be wrong, but I don't think we have. The last one I can remember was when we played Cambridge last year at home, 5-1. But I might be wrong. John, you got any ideas? Do you know when the last time we had a penalty was? Have we had one this season yet?
Okay, I'm sure towards the end of last season, Ross Stewart banged one in. I'm sure he did at Stadium of Light.
Yes, that was the Cambridge game.
Yeah, I think that's the last one. I'm just touching on that penalty shout with Jack Clarke. The stream goes to the referee, and the referee says, "Oh, he wins the ball. He wins the ball." I cannot believe how the referee has spotted that. Surely a linesman who's side on, albeit far away, has seen him go through the back of Clarke, which would be a foul anyway.
It's quite physically impossible for him to have got anywhere near the ball from where he was.
What is the ref talking about? You can clearly see him on the stream. Says, "Oh, he wins the ball. He wins the ball," and he's shaking his head, saying, "No, he wins the ball. He's nowhere near the ball." But it's one of those frustrations you have to accept, that referees are in it. That's the sort of thing that the Premier League will go to the VAR and say, "You need to go and look at the monitor," but we don't have that, so it's one of those I think we have to live with.
Yeah. And obviously the other moment in the game wasn't a decision, Michael, but instead it was Diaku, who obviously came on as a sub in the second half. He was put through on goal, and I haven't really watched it back. I think I've seen it back once, but I can't really remember if there was anyone in the box that you could have played it to. But from that chance there, it was a tight angle, but one that you'd expect him to at least hit the target from, I think.
Yeah, that was I had that viewpoint as well. I think that it's obviously easier said than done because the angle's very, very tight for him to try and score from. But obviously, yeah, I think to not get it on target is disappointing. And he'll know that himself. I'm sure he will. I'm just trying, funnily enough, I'm trying to cover the fact I'm trying to look at this back. Because I don't think, from what I can remember, that there was anybody in the box for Diaku to play that chance to. But as I said before, at that point, that was when I was starting to believe, actually, we're starting to create chances. We've already got behind them once since the subs have came on. So at least it was good to just keep going and keep applying the pressure because it was deserved. Hang on, if you bear with me, I might be able to see it. Nope, I'm not. I'm just going to be completely disorganized. Well, anyway, yeah, no, it was that chance Jeffy should have gone in, but Jack will know that himself.
Yeah. Like I say, it did finish 2-2. Subs coming on to change the game, and now we'll get into the player ratings, starting with you, John, with Anthony Patterson.
I'll probably go with. I'll say a 6. I thought he was fairly solid. I think my only slight criticism will be on the goal, where 09 scores. I think, if my goalkeeper's coming out and screaming and putting his fists in there, if ultimately he misses it, that's fine. But 5 yards off your goal, I think you've got to come out and win that. And I'll happily praise him, when he does stuff well. And but people are saying, "Oh, we should have signed another goalkeeper." I don't necessarily think it's that, but it's okay to call out, and he'll know. He'll see the videos back. I think it's okay to say, yeah, you could have done better on that, but not really anything to worry about. But you need to learn and sort of move on.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, 6 as well. I think John's said most of it. I think you praise him when he's done well, that's one of the few errors he's made, but that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. Then Gooch at right wing back had another good game, John.
Yeah, I'll probably go for 7. I thought he was solid. The ball over the back of him's probably an absolutely fantastic one. Maybe if I was being a little bit critical, we could sort of see his man in behind him. But apart from that, I thought he was solid. Solid Lyndon Gooch, performance and fair play to him. There was times in League One he really did, struggle, and you didn't know whether he's going to be here. So one of those players who's taken the opportunity and stepped up.
Yeah, Michael.
Same rating for me as well. I think defensively, especially, I think first half there was times when Watford were trying to get down his side a few times, and honestly, something simple as blocking crosses, I think, was just really, really impeccable. And I love stuff like that. I love stuff like just being able to do the ugly side of the game and defend properly. But he showed the energy and endeavour that he's continued to show throughout the season. So I think 7's fair as well.
Yeah. Luke O'Nien, obviously it was his own goal, well, his header that resulted in Watford's second goal, the own goal, John.
Again, I'd probably go with a 7. It was very busy. Watford front line was very, very good, to be fair. Don't ask me to name any of them because I couldn't. But they sort of pulled him all over the place. But I thought, to be fair, he dealt with it quite well. Again, with the referee, if we're being slightly critical of the ref, I think there is maybe a push in there. Which Luke O'Nien normally wins those headers, with ease. But if you put pressure on someone, those things are going to happen. But it doesn't. I wouldn't really put any blame on him at all. But another unsung hero for a supposed attacking midfielder, playing at centre back in the Championship.
Yeah, Michael.
I just love the way John said that. Supposed attacking midfielder playing centre back in the Championship. Just goes to show the versatility of the guy, doesn't it? But yeah, 7 as well. The own goal, you could say Patterson doesn't really help him out there. But that aside, I actually thought that in general, considering he was up against Keenan Davis, he was up against João Pedro. Obviously, João Pedro was linked with a move to Newcastle over the summer. I think he's generally done quite well. And I've loved the fact that as a centre-back, I think his positional sense now has actually started to really improve. I've noticed that recently. And yesterday, I think, was no exception. And yesterday probably would have been one of the hardest games that you would have had to contend with opponent-wise. So, yeah, I would say 7 is about a justified rating as well.
Yeah. Danny Bart, once again, in defence, John.
Another one, I'll probably go for 7. Again, I thought he was solid. He won just about everything in the air, which we expect. And there were countless times second half where I just saw him stepping in and, he was against some big physical lads, to be fair. Obviously the midweek game we had, you could probably say he had a bit of an easy one, but this one really had to work for it. And, did relatively well. Again, another unsung hero, at centre-back alongside 09.
Yeah, Michael.
And yeah, again, same rating from me, regardless. The only criticism I think we said earlier was that I think he left Davis a bit too easily for the goal. But obviously, as we said before, that was a very, very good movement from Watford. But in general, won his aerial battles, and again, just continues to prove that his experience is absolutely vital in this league.
Yeah. Alongside him, obviously, Alessi in defence again, and it was his goal that scored the initial equaliser for Sunderland, John.
Yeah, I'll probably go with an 8 on this one. I thought he was very good defending. Not a lot seemed to come down his side. They sort of seemed to go sort of Lyndon Gooch's wing. Again, very solid. And when you are very solid, you can then play forward. And to be fair, he's very, very good player going forward. Everyone worries, including myself, when Sirkin goes injured, you think, is he ready? But to be fair, that's what you want. The young players taking their opportunities, and obviously with the goal, doesn't give up. Great footwork for a defender, and gets his just rewards. And we can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, Michael.
I'd probably personally go with a 7. I thought first half defensively, I thought there was a couple of times Watford went down his side that he maybe could have stopped the cross a bit sooner. But otherwise, gets the goal. I think that's just so. In the first half, I think he struggled a little bit, not too much, but just a bit. But as the game went on, I thought he got much, much better. I think defensively started to get a lot more assured, and obviously got the goal that I didn't realise was a goal. So, you can't complain with that. And like John said, with Sirkin being out, like we said, players have to step up. And on the whole, I think Alessi has done that.
Yeah. Jack Clarke obviously had that goal disallowed for offside, John, and after the replays that we finally got to saw, he was definitely offside. But I thought he was fairly resolute throughout the game.
I'd probably go over 6 on this one. Maybe it wasn't as Jack Clark a performance as we maybe come to expect, and that's the level he's set himself. Just an attacking front. Watford probably played a lot more. With the ball, so you don't maybe notice Jack Clark as much. So yeah, I thought it was a relatively quiet game. But yeah, it's just one of them.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I'd probably go with the 6 as well. I think 6 just because Jack Clark's standards have been so good this season so far that I think this has been one of his weaker games. But again, if you're cutting him some slack, it's against recently relegated Premier League opposition. You're not going to have as much time to affect the game. And there were times where obviously we were having to defend as a unit and be on the back foot, which meant Clark suffered from that a little bit. But, I think he did all right, but just not as good as what we've seen him do.
Yeah. In midfield, Corey Evans started again, John.
I'd probably go over 7. I did see a few criticisms of his performance, but I thought he did a lot of the dirty work, which gets unnoticed. I thought to be very pressed. He pressed quite well, and probably lasted. I think it was about 75 minutes. Came off, but it was just one of those performances where I don't really notice a huge deal, but he's sort of doing the dirty work of the team. So yeah, I'll go over 6.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I'd go with a 7 as well. I'd go with a 7 personally. I think that he looked all right. Again, it's one of these games where he's not going to be able to stand out as much. But obviously, he has done some of the dirty work. Sometimes we were trying to get him behind Watford and played some nice passages of play. And I think, again, it just demonstrates for me how a calming influence can actually make a difference to a side. And yeah, but again, he's up against players that were in the Premier League last year, or at least are involved with a team that should be at least in the top 6. So I'd say 7 personally, but maybe I'm just being generous with that.
Yeah. Daniel, John.
I'd probably go over 6 this one. His pressing was really good, but there were a few times where just an easy pass was needed, and he didn't probably how he started at Reading. Just those easy passes, just lay it off, keep the ball ticking over, and yeah, that did frustrate me a little bit. But as I say, his pressing was still good, and obviously he's working his backside off, and probably one of the senior players at the moment, considering he's only 20. But I won't really criticise him because I love him, and anyone else who criticises him will have to fight me on another day.
Absolutely, Michael.
Probably a 6 as well. I think again the endeavour and effort was definitely there. And his pressing at times was good, but my God, some of his passing was really, really poor. Certainly in the first half. Second half got a bit better with it, but my God, yeah. I've seen, but again, I'll go with a 6. But again, like with Clark, I've seen Daniel be better than that, and I know he's better than
that. Alex Pritchard, John.
Yeah, I thought he did okay. I'll probably go with a 6. And just he sort of seemed to play like the false striker position. Not too many things came off. Again, maybe guilty of losing the ball a couple of times, but the kids came on and sort of bailed a few of them out. So we'll let him off of 1 week.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, 6 as well. I think again, Pritchard, we know what he's about. I think this was one of his weaker games. I didn't really notice him as much. But again, it's probably because that he's, again, like I keep saying with other players, it's the opposition that we're coming up against. And therefore, you've got less time to shine and stand out the way you want to. So, yeah, 6 for me as well.
Yeah. And last but not least, Embleton obviously started again, John.
Probably another 6. Not as... probably didn't have a lot of time and space as he did with Reading. I thought Watford, to be fair, kept him fairly quiet. But again, pressed relatively well. It kept the ball moving when we eventually did have it, but sort of a quiet game. But yeah, I'll go over 6.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, another 6 as well. I think again, I know I keep repeating this point, but again, I think he didn't have as much joy as he would have wanted to. I think there was times in the first half when we were lumping the ball forward, and you could tell that there was no outlet, whether it be Stewart or Sims. And obviously, Embleton, for all his endeavour, is not a striker. So let's just say the sooner that Ellis Sims gets back fit, the better.
Yeah, and I did just realise that was only 10 players. Of course, Patrick Roberts is the last one, John.
I'd probably go with an 8 actually. Especially for sort of last 15 minutes. Performance there. It's easy to, after sort of 60, 70 minutes after you played midweek, fade out a little bit. But I thought he seemed to get stronger, and as the game wore on, and probably made things happen for us with the opportunities we did have, and obviously the goal we scored. So yeah, I'd go with an 8.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, probably the same. First half, I thought that again, so I think he was the one in the first half that I think that Watford looked quite scared of and quite dangerous, wary of. But obviously, second half, last 20 minutes, especially, like John said, I think he was starting to take the game to them. And again, like with the rest of the team, I think he was just starting to show his quality, and some of his dribbling was actually very good. But yeah, 8 for me as well.
Yeah, and man of the match to pick one, John.
I'd probably go Patrick Roberts. For almost made the goal. That probably dug us out. But throughout the game, he was a threat, and like we say, he's loved. And when he is loved, he'll flourish. So again, it's another one of those. Long may it continue.
Yeah, Michael, for you.
Finding it difficult actually to pick one. I think I'll just copy John's answer. So just everything he said.
Fair enough. But it is now the international break, so there's no game for the next 2 weeks. Plenty of time for the likes of Ellis Sims and I think Dennis Serkin as well to get back out training. They will probably be back for the Preston game. Obviously, Stewart and Ballard probably won't see much football before the end of the year. Michu, obviously, he picked up an injury in training about a week ago, so he's probably going to have a bit more time to recover, a bit more time to get some training in, and I'd be surprised if he isn't involved in that game against Preston after the break. But still 2 weeks away, John. Things will change. But score predictions for that game anyway?
If a home game, I think you've got to set yourself up for 3 points. I'm happily going for a 3-1 win. It'd be interesting to see what the team lineup looks like. Because at the moment there's so many places up for grabs with how we're playing. So yeah, nice. Even though I hate the international break, it's probably a good thing for a few players. To sit back, relax, get a few players back, and go again.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, because Preston have struggled to score goals recently, but you come up against Sunderland, and half the time that changes, doesn't it? Yeah, I'd probably go 2-1. I think it'll be a tight, close game, but I think if you put Preston under pressure, and especially if you take the lead early enough, then I think they'll feel the fact that they don't score as many goals. So yeah, at home, like John said, you've got to be looking for 3 points.
Yeah, but of course, that is 2 weeks away. So between now and then, we'll probably have a preview out and potentially another podcast talking about something a little bit different and a little bit away from the actual football on the pitch. But we will see. But that is all the time for today. We'll be back with another podcast in the near future. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.